Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. I hope you're all doing well. Ladies and gentlemen, I've often been asked the question of what should I put away? What should I stock up on in order to barter with should a scenario occur where facilities, where utilities, where the system is just down for a very long time? Let's say, for example, that we have an EMP, which me personally, I don't think that we're going to have an EMP event here in the United States. However, I do know for a fact that eventually the Earth will be hit by a massive coronal mass ejection, just like it was back in, I believe, was 1859, which is known as the Carrington event. Now, a coronal mass ejection, for those of you who are not familiar with it, it is just a mass ejection of particles, right? Radioactive particles that are spewed from the sun towards the Earth, which makes contact with the Earth. Now, depending on what size that CME would be, would depend on the size of the damage that would occur to our electrical infrastructure, to include personal devices such as phones, TVs, computers, all of those little electronic things that we've been used to and that we take for granted on an everyday basis, like GPS or the microchips that are used in order to be able to run a vehicle. Should we be hit with a CME the size that occurred back in 1859, during a time in the history of the Earth where the magnetic field is as weak as it currently is, it would be devastating, ladies and gentlemen. It would be devastating. So what does this have to do with getting things to barter? Well, let me get back online here. I've often told people that if you want to get things to barter, what I do is I just get more of the same things that I myself would need. So for example, if I want to get something to barter and I already put away rice, just put away more rice, because more than likely there's going to be people out there who did not put away enough food, enough rice per se, that you can then use your excess to barter with and get something from them that maybe you forgot to get. Another thing, if you put away beans, just put away extra beans to barter. If you put away batteries, put away extra batteries, and the list goes on and on and on. So instead of trying to make this rocket science and trying to figure out what everyone else is going to need, just concentrate on what you are going to need and your family is going to need and get more of that. And I guarantee you that should the time ever come where you need to barter some of that stuff away, that there will always be someone who will need what you have put away for you and your family, and you'll be in a great position because you just put away a lot more than what you would need. I came across this list here from Natural News that talks about 13 items that we should be stocking up right now in case of an EMP. Now again, I'm not trying to be alarmist. I'm not trying to tell you that we're going to have an EMP. Anything can happen, ladies and gentlemen. Anything can happen. But I think personally that we would have a CME before we have an EMP attack upon our sovereign soil here in the United States of America. Now, as always, I am going to go ahead and leave the link to this so that you can revisit it and read the entire thing yourself. But I just highlighted a few lines here that I would like to go over with you so that you can understand that even if an EMP does not occur and we have a CME that nobody can control, ladies and gentlemen, a CME, coronal mass ejection, will be just as bad, if not worse, than an EMP that was purposely done by a foreign nation or an adversarial nation. You might already be familiar with common disaster scenarios that you need to prepare for. And we all pretty much are, unless you are new to the preparedness lifestyle. Pretty much everyone that's watching this video knows that, hey, we need to be prepared, or you have an inkling in your mind that you need to have satisfied that. Do I really need to be prepared? Well, let me tell you right now, yes, you do need to be prepared. It doesn't have to be for the end of the world, ladies and gentlemen. As a matter of fact, it's not for the end of the world, right? I think it was Bear from Bear in the Pen that I heard say once on an interview that he was on. He says, I don't prepare for doomsday, I prepare for Tuesday. Right? Meaning that you just prepare and live your everyday life just like you live it, and just prepare to survive another day in case something out of your control were to occur, such as natural disasters or societal collapse. One of the most serious disaster scenarios involves an electromagnetic pulse, which is an EMP attack. Such an attack could destroy most of your electronics and also take out the electrical grid. And we talked about that, and that is true. Because countries like the US use electricity for almost everything. You can expect society, the infrastructure, and the supply chain to come to a shocking halt after an EMP attack. And ladies and gentlemen, that could not be more true. Should we have an EMP attack and no other nations come to our rescue, meaning that come to help us, it would be devastating. Just think about it on a personal level. Turn off all of your personal devices. Turn off the electricity in your home. Turn everything off. Don't give yourself the ability to use your vehicle. Don't give yourself the ability to communicate, and stay in your home for a week or even a weekend. That will give you a very, very small idea of what it would be like if we had an EMP attack or a massive CME that took out our electrical infrastructure. If you're worried about where you're going to get more survival supplies after such a disaster, you should start stocking up on supplies that you can also use for bartering after the SHTF, as they say here. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are worried, just like they say, about being able to get those things that you need after any kind of a disaster, be it regional, be it local, be it systemic, meaning that it encompasses the entire nation that you live in, for us here in the United States, then you should be getting those things that you would be worried about getting later on. You should be getting them now, ladies and gentlemen. That's what preparing is about. The word prepper, the word preparing has really taken on a negative connotation over the years, because they say, well, preppers, and this is mainly like the mainstream media, right? And even some governmental organizations that talk like this. Well, preppers are hoarders. Preppers are nationalists. Preppers are patriots, and they're not good. You know, where it's not hoarding. I believe that loving your country and being a patriot is a very good thing. Let me know if you think that loving your country and being a patriot is a very good thing down in the comments. So anyways, they've given the word prepping a bad connotation over the years. So people hear that word and they either laugh or they either frown. But what they don't understand is that preparedness is not for anyone but for yourself. That when you are being encouraged to prepare, to be prepared, it's not that you're doing it for me. Yes, it does have a benefit on a community level. The more people that are prepared within a community, the better that it is for everyone. I know that I'm rambling on here, but this is just such a great example that I can use, especially to those of you that have read or listened on audiobook to the book 1 Second After, right? Now the book 1 Second After goes over a 365-day period starting on day 0 when this little town, I think it was called Black Mountain, you know, in North Carolina, I think it was, or South Carolina. It's one of those. But this little town's experience after they had been hit by an EMP. It goes through a whole year. Now, that's a small community. That little town was a community of about, I think it was 9,000 people or so. And that's a small town, really. Think to yourself, imagine if everyone in that town had a year's supply of food. Imagine if they had a 6-month or so supply of medication, if it was prescription medication. Imagine if they'd had a good supply of antibiotics. Just imagine if they had all of those things. Imagine if they had water filtration, you know, fuel. Excess fuel that they've stored away for emergencies. The story would have been completely different than what it acted out as on that book. So that's what preparedness is for, ladies and gentlemen. And if you have not read or listened to the book 1 Second After, I believe they still have it on YouTube where you can listen to it and it doesn't cost you anything. You really need to listen to that book or read that book. I enjoyed reading it a lot, but I love listening to it as well because they do a great job. I believe that that would convince you to start preparing if you're not actively preparing right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, calm down. Calm down. We're going to get to the list of the 13 items that you should be stocking up now. It's actually a lot more than 13. But you know that I have to tell you the backstory. For those of you that are new here, I like to talk, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm talking with you. Remember, I'm talking with you, not at you. And that's why I'm so long-winded. Sometimes I'm like, AP, why are you so long-winded? And you know what AP says? Because I love my people. I love you all, and I don't want to treat you as a subject. I want to treat you as my equal. You're just on the other side of that camera. The last thing that we'll go over really quick, and again, you can come back and revisit this article. I will leave the link on a pinned comment. According to the report of EMP Commission, right, that's here in the United States, somewhere between 60 and 90% of people will die of starvation after an EMP attack within a year. Now, go ahead and add EMP/CME, right? Because a CME can be just as catastrophic as an EMP, if not maybe even worse, because it will affect pretty much the entire earth, right? So just knowing that this is the formal stance of our United States government. This is their formal stance, the EMP Commission, that between 60 and 90% of the people in the United States of America will die of starvation within 1 year after an EMP/CME. Why are you not preparing? Why are you not putting some stuff away? Because, ladies and gentlemen, I guarantee you this, it won't be the end of the world. It will not be the end of the world. And if you are ready to, go away, to pass on to the next life, you will. But it will be after very much suffering. So why are you not preparing? All right, now let's go ahead and go over some of the things that they recommend here that you store in order to be able to barter after I'm not just going to call it an EMP, but I'll call it after a systemic event that takes down our infrastructure and our utilities. Pretty much takes down all government as well. The first one, great one, alcohol. And here they explain that even if you don't drink, it'd be nice to have a little bit of alcohol, main spirits, vodka, whiskey, gin, things like that, put away for barter. Why? Because there's a lot of people out there that need alcohol. Right? I think one of the worst things that you can do to an alcoholic is take away their alcohol cold turkey. I think that would be more detrimental to their health, my opinion, than allowing them to get off of it little by little, right? But having alcohol is something that's pretty universal, right? Whether you drink or not. I don't drink, but I have a whole bunch of alcohol that I put away because I know that people drink, and that's a tool that you can use to barter for something that you would probably need, maybe something that you forgot, and something that's really not going to hurt for you to get rid of, for you to barter away. The only con with alcohol, in my opinion, is that it's heavy and the bottles take up a lot of room. So now, should I have done it over again with the stash of alcohol that I have? I've probably only gotten about half of what I've gotten, all right, put away, and I probably would have used smaller bottles instead of the big bottles that I got. So I probably would have gone with smaller bottles that are a lot easier to trade, and about half of what I have already is all I would have gotten. But alcohol, in my opinion, I think it's a great thing to have. Now this list right here, it's not in any particular order. It's not like you should go get alcohol first if you're going to follow this list. It's just in a randomized order. The next thing, ladies and gentlemen, I talk about it all the times. And in addition to being addicted to knives, in addition to being addicted to flashlights, in addition to being addicted to generators, solar panels, all those things, I am addicted to batteries because I know how important batteries are in order for you to be able to maintain somewhat of a standard of living. If you've ever lived in the dark, where you have had no electricity whatsoever. And the only way that I can explain this is when I was out in the field, when I was in Afghanistan out in the field. We didn't have, we were outside the wire, so we didn't have a nice little room to come back to every night. We were living out there. And a flashlight is very important. To be able to have light is very important. And not only that, it's a big morale booster. I remember being in some tents that were makeshift tents that were just put there on the spot so that we can maybe have a hot meal out in the field that were not lit. And we would go in there at nighttime to go get snacks and stuff like that, and they were completely dark. Well, light, ladies and gentlemen, is a great morale booster in my opinion. And in addition to allowing you to have light, that battery is going to be one of the most barterable things that you will have. I'll go back to Afghanistan one last time with you all. One of the top 3 things that I was asked for in Afghanistan by the public, by the civilians, and also by the Afghan National Police, and the Afghan soldiers. One of the top 3 things was batteries. Batteries, flashlights, and pens. Pens, I'd never gotten to, understand why pens. They always ask me for pens, but batteries, flashlights, top 3 things that I was always asked for. So that's definitely a very good barterable thing. And again, batteries that are rechargeable, that could be a side business for you after the apocalypse. Is getting rechargeable batteries that you can trade back and forth, that you can recharge with your solar generator or solar panels. Cigarettes or anything else that may be a vice is going to be tradable. Again, these are addictions that people have that you can't just get rid of overnight, right? And going cold turkey is a lot more difficult than some people may think. So having cigarettes, tobacco products, again, alcohol, these are things that people are going to look for, that people are going to be desperate for, that you may be able to capitalize on to get something that maybe you forgot to put away. Ladies and gentlemen, do I even have to say coffee? Look, I'm drinking my morning coffee right now, so I shouldn't even have to say coffee. But the question that I get most often about coffee is how can I put it away so that it can last a long time? Well, I've tried several things, but I've come up with 2 things that you don't have to do anything. You just have to get your coffee this way. The first and easiest way to get coffee coffee that's going to last you a very long time is get freeze-dried coffee. Taster's choice. If you want to get the very best spray-dried coffee in the world, it's called Nutrient Survival. Take a look at the link below the description of the video and check out Nutrient Survival. They have the very best and most nutritious, dense food, emergency food, and their coffee is the best that I've had as far as a spray-dried coffee goes. But anyways, I digress. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, coffee, spray-dried or freeze-dried, they're going to last you a very, very long time, and it's going to maintain its quality. It really is. I've drank freeze-dried coffee that was years and years old, like from an MRE, and it was still good. It was still, you know, palatable, and it still had that caffeine effect that we all love about coffee. The second way is the coffee that comes in the vacuum sealed thick Mylar bags that come in little bricks. That coffee, I've got some that is years old after the best by date, and it is still good. I believe that since it's sealed in such a tight manner, and in addition it has such a thick Mylar bag surrounding it and protecting it, that's what allows it to last so long. But I've never had one of those bricks of coffee when I open them, especially Café Bustelo, go bad or taste off when I tried it. How many people that you know have an ample supply of matches, just matches in their home? In the world that we live in today, where they want you to go to electric stoves, electric this, electric that, right? Electric heaters. How many people do we know really that actually have a pack of matches at home? Or if they don't smoke, they have a few lighters. So fire starters, ladies and gentlemen. With fire starters, I often like to start with the very easiest one to use. The easiest one to use in any condition, and then go ahead and start adding to your collection all the way down to where you're trying to start a fire with a magnesium bar and a ferrocerium rod, right? I almost forget the names. But the easiest one to use is someone that would have like a trigger, right? One that would have like a trigger that will allow a very strong flame to come out. That way you can start the fire easily. And then a lighter, you know, an elongated lighter, let's say, or a lighter stick. And then maybe a Zippo, and then a Bic, and then just work your way down until you get to the most rudimentary way to light fires, and there you go. All right, I believe in using the easiest thing first and then going down the line. And if you have to get to using those things that are not on the top of the list, it means because you need to do it, right? Or maybe it's because you need to practice. But for a survival scenario, get those things that are going to be the easiest things to use first, and things that are going to last you a long time. But fire starters, as far as you know, like maybe the little cubes that catch on fire easy, things like that, or even your lighters, those things are going to be invaluable, ladies and gentlemen, in a situation such as an EMP or CME, or where the grid and utilities and services are down for a very long time. First aid supplies, and I'm actually going to go ahead and read through these recommendations here. Antibacterial cream, they say, butterfly closures, chest seals, cotton swabs, elastic bandages, gloves, hot and cold packs, N95 mask, rubbing alcohol, scissors, splints, and the list goes on and on and on, ladies and gentlemen. I would say, I don't know if they have this added to their list. I haven't looked at the whole thing yet. I'm going through it with you all. But I would say that also having a good supply of your prescription medications that you rely on to live for as long as you can push them forward, number one. And ladies and gentlemen, one thing that's not on here that I believe every single family in the United States, even during good times, should have is some medical grade antibiotics, some prescription antibiotics. Now, take a look at the link below. I am partnered with Contingency Medical, and they can provide you with legal, this is all legal, antibiotics for emergency use purposes. All right, you take a small screening online where a doctor reviews it. They go ahead and give you a prescription where a pharmacist fills the prescription, and then it is shipped directly to your home. So check that out. It's something that I think everyone ought to have, at least one per family, at least one garden variety, one per family. But you do your own research on that to decide whether you want to or not. Why is that? Because you just never know. Even if during good times we may have some kind of a shortage. For us here in the United States of America, if you don't know this, and if you've been here for a while on this channel, then you do know this, and that is that we rely mainly on outside sources to provide us with about 85-90% of all prescription medications that we consume here in the United States. So it doesn't have to be an EMP, it doesn't have to be a CME, it doesn't have to be a huge natural disaster that will keep you from getting any prescription medications and or antibiotics that you may need. It could just be a supply crunch, or it could be as easy as countries that are outside of our border not being very friendly towards us and maybe getting angry at us and saying, hey, we're going to sanction you, USA. How do you like that? Of course, we need fuel. We need fuel for everything, especially here in Alaska. You know, I like to keep enough gasoline on reserve, meaning in my stockpile, to fill up each one of my vehicles at least one time, ladies and gentlemen. All right, that doesn't mean that if something happens where we can't get gasoline tomorrow, that we're going to continue to drive the way that we're driving. It means that we're going to have enough gasoline probably for an entire month, month and a half, just so that we can take care of things that we have to take care of, knowing that we have a limited supply of gasoline. But not only gasoline, as far as a fuel, we here in Alaska, a lot of us use heating fuel in order to heat our homes during the winter. If you use wood, try to have that extra 1, 2, 3 year supply of wood stacked up outside, so you can be sure that even if we do run out of gasoline, that you won't have to worry about cutting wood with a chainsaw, which takes gasoline, right? To make sure that you have wood to heat your home. But there's so many other forms of heat. Propane. I have enough propane put away in order to heat my home for at least one winter, and enough to heat this bunker here where I'm at for probably a couple of winters. And not only for that, but for cooking as well, for heating water. There's just so many things that we take for granted nowadays, ladies and gentlemen, and fuel is definitely one of them. Let me finish it off with this on fuel. How many times have you asked yourself, what would I do if tomorrow I came to fill up my vehicle and there was no more gasoline available? Ask yourself that question and then decide whether or not you should put fuel away for an emergency. And in all honesty, fuel is probably something that I would never barter unless it was something that I really, really needed to have. I would probably never barter that away. But that's up to you. Well, we've covered medicines, but medicines as far as prescription, we've covered that, but also over-the-counter medicines. Go get your cold medication. Try to have a 1 or 2 year, or let me say, I don't like to tell you what to do, but I try to have a 1 or 2 year supply of like cold medications, of antibiotic cream, things like that I can get over the counter on hand at all times. Because every winter we usually go through 2 or 3 bottles because we get a cold. I usually don't, but normally in our household we get a cold 2 or 3 times a year, and we go through a couple of bottles of Dimetap or some Mucinex or whatever it is that we've got stocked away, Tylenol, cold medication, etc. But not only that, ibuprofen, Tylenol, acetaminophen, which is Tylenol also, just a generic term. Get those things that you normally use on an annual basis and just get a couple extra bottles, ladies and gentlemen. I know that this can sound somewhat of a big taking, right? Because get this, get that, get that. But remember that slow and steady does win the race, right? Do it slowly and steadily. You don't have to go out tomorrow and spend $10,000 on all of this stuff, or even $1,000. Every time you go shopping, maybe get a little bit extra of this, get a little bit extra of that. And over-the-counter medication and prescription medication, in my opinion, especially antibiotics, are going to be such a barterable item that it may be one of those things as well that you may not want to barter away. But it's going to bring you a lot of, let's say, I don't want to call it wealth, but it's going to bring you a lot of purchasing power if you ever had to barter medicines away. But why is that? Because the people that are wanting it, they must really, really need it. And maybe they'll have something that you need. And the best case scenario, really, in a situation like this, ladies and gentlemen, is that you don't have to barter. That you got enough to where you can help your neighbor and give it to them as charity, right? Let's see, personal hygiene products. You can't go wrong with having all the personal hygiene products you need, and even extras of things that you don't personally use in order to barter or to help people with. So here, of course, soap. If you don't know how to make your own soap, take a look at the right hand corner. I did a video, very, very simple, 3 things that you need to make your own soap. And guess what? It works every single time. It's very simple. It's not rocket science, ladies and gentlemen. It's not even soap science. That's how easy it is to make your own soap. So check that video out, because once you see that video, you will be convinced that you can do it. And I hope that you do it. That way you'll know that you can do it should the time come where you need to do it. A chapstick, great idea. Combs to take care of your hair, great idea. Cotton swabs, dental floss, deodorant, diapers, feminine hygiene products. Gotta get the feminine hygiene products, ladies and gentlemen. A UTI is a real thing. You don't want to use up all your medical grade antibiotics on UTIs just because you forgot to get the female hygiene products, right? And I'm being serious here. You know, it's a real thing. Okay, hairbrushes, hand sanitizers, lotions, razors, shampoos, shaving cream, toilet paper, toothbrushes, toothpaste, and the list, I am sure, could go on and on and on. Just add to it the things that you use, just add to it, and then you can have things to barter, should you want to barter during a disaster? And something that you will always be able to barter, ladies and gentlemen, is food. Any kind of food, you will be able to barter it. But what kind of food should you put away? Well, depending on how long you want to be prepared for, you can put a 1-year supply limit in your pantry, meaning that it's just things that you eat on an everyday basis, and you rotate it out. And if for some reason today the supermarkets were gone, right, they just disappeared out of thin air, right, then you know that you would be able to survive on the things that you normally eat for a full year, because that's what you have in your pantry. Then after that, you can get to long-term foodstuffs that you package yourself for long-term, i.e. your rice, your beans, your grains, things like that. Someone asked me in a previous video, AP, what are you going to do with all of your food now that you know you're a diabetic and you really can't eat that kind of stuff anymore? Not that it's necessarily bad food, you know, I could barter it, but my family can still eat that stuff. But for me, for instance, that is what I would call, in my case, starvation food. So if for some reason something happened where I had to go back to eating those foods, it's because if I don't eat them, I'm going to starve. So if I don't have my 1.5 or 2 pounds of steak that I eat on a regular basis almost every day, you know, after the apocalypse, then you better believe that I'm going to be eating those other foods. However, I have foods put away that are actually diabetic friendly. All right, even though they have carbs, they're diabetic friendly. So you may want to be thinking about that as well. If you're a diabetic, and let's say that you adhere to the carnivore or ketovore diet, is that I have a lot of lentils, a lot of beans. You know, even if you mix a large portion of beans with a little bit of rice, that's actually a very good protein, you know, that you can ingest, and it's not as, you know, insulin. It doesn't make your insulin go as high as usually if you eat just the rice by itself, right? So, you know, that to me, I would call starvation. And then here, if you take a look at the rest of the article, ladies and gentlemen, they just give you some more hints on why you should have soap, toilet paper. Water filtrations and purifiers is going to be a huge thing. If you can pick up a whole bunch of Life straws or Sawyer minis so that you can use for barter, $20 a piece right now, ladies and gentlemen. You're not going to beat that price, and they're only going to go higher in price as time goes on. If you're lucky and find them on sale, I found packs of 5 Life straws on sale here about a year ago, and I bought me a few packs because they were like $25 for 5 of them. That's a great deal. I bought me a few packs just to have, and that would make a great barter item as well. What it comes down to, ladies and gentlemen, is this. It's not a question of if there's going to be a major disaster, either locally, regionally, or nationally, or even worldwide. It's a question of when. It's happened before throughout history, and people nowadays, they live in a state of what I like to call recency bias, meaning, hey, this has never happened in our lifetime, so it's probably not going to happen. Let's hope that you're right. All right, let's hope that you're right. And of course, people live in a state mostly of normalcy bias, thinking that if it's not happened to me, it's never going to happen, so we'll be all right. Only because I've never broken an arm, I've never broken a bone, it means that I'm never going to break a bone. Right? That's normalcy bias. And a lot of people are in a state of normalcy bias. They're pretty much just living life every day like they've always lived it, not looking out into the future as to what could happen when you take a look back at history. So prepare now that you have time, right? It's not the end of the world, right? You don't have to be a doomsday prepper. Just get prepared little by little in case you lose a job, in case you break a leg, right? In case we have an EMP, in case we have a CME, in case we have a hurricane and you need water and you need a water filter to make sure that you don't get sick drinking the water coming out of the faucet. We can go on and on and on, but you know what? I think I've made this video about 3,000, 4,000 hours long already, so I'm going to stop talking. But first, I'm going to say thank you very much to every one of you for joining in. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for all of your support. And you know, the links that I provide in the description of my videos, those links are to affiliates and people that I sponsor with or that I partner with, that I trust, and their product, in my opinion, is a good product that's worth buying. So I'm not telling you to go buy stuff just to buy stuff, but if you are in the market for those things, take a look at my links. Antibiotics, freeze-dried foods. If you're in the market to try to preserve some of your earned value, you know, and change your fiat currency into real gold and silver. These are all things that I have partners with that I trust, that I think provide a great service or a great product. So to support yourself, you can also support me by using my links. Other than that, thank you again very much, ladies and gentlemen. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.